All right, this is lesson 7. We are going to be doing more of the same types of problems, part equals percent times whole. So we're going to start with this opening exercise. All right, it does say to use mental math only, but we're not going to do that. We are going to show all of our work. So it says Corey and Everett have collected model cars since the 3rd grade. Corey has 80 model cars in his collection, which is 25% more than Everett. So how many model cars does Everett have? Okay, so I'm going to underline the 25% more. So if it's 25% more, that means that he has 100 plus 25%, which is 125%. So that's going to be the percentage that we use in our problem. So let me set up the cheat sheet. So 125%. Corey has 80 model cars, and we want to know how many Everett has. So we need to determine what the part is and what the percentage is. So we're talking about Corey and Everett, and we want to know what is the part and what is the whole. So since he has 25% more than Everett, that means Corey has more than Everett. So we're going to put Corey as our whole because we're comparing it to Corey, and our part is going to be Everett. All right, so let's set up part, percent, whole. So our part, I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Let's try that again. Our whole is going to be what we're trying to find, and our part is 80, the number that Corey has. All right, so our part is 80. We have 1.25 or 125% times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1.25, which gives us 64 for our x. So that means that Everett has 64 cards. Now, does that make sense that Corey has 80? That is 25% more than Everett. Does that make sense that 80 is more than 64? This isn't cards. This is cars. I'm sorry. Which does make sense. So our answer would be 64. All right, example 1. 75% of the students in his class are 60 inches or taller. There are 20 students in the class. So how many are 60 inches or taller? So this would be all the students in the class, and we want to know how many are taller than that. So let's start with part, percent, and whole. So 20 is all of the students in the class. It's 75% are taller than 60 inches, which is 0.75, and we want to know the part, how many students are actually taller than that. So part equals percent times whole. Our part is x, percentage is 0.75, 20 total students. So I'm going to bring the calculator in. I'm going to do 0.75 times 20, which is 15 students. All right, part B, Bobby wants to leave a tip for her waitress equal to 15% of her bill. So her whole bill would be the whole, which is $18. And we want to know how much money represents 15% of the bill. So part, percent, whole, 15%, which is 0.15. The whole is the entire bill, and we want to know how much the tip should be. So here's my little cheat sheet. Part equals percent times whole. So our part is x, 0.15 times 18. So 0.15 times 18 is 2. And we're talking about money, so make sure you add that extra 0 on there. It would be $2.70. All right, so basically today's lesson is an entire review. What I want you to do is try the exercises on your own. It's just a mixture of problems that we've been doing throughout this module. When you're done, make sure you go through the answers and have the same answers that I have on the paper. Go ahead and hit pause now. All right, number 1, express 9 hours as a percentage of 3 days. So let's set up our part, percent, and whole. So the percentage is what we're trying to find. Now here's the problem. We have 9 hours and 3 days. We have to have the same units. So since there's 24 hours in a day, we're just going to multiply 3 by 24, which gives us 72. So of means that's the whole. So that would be 72. 9 by default would be the part. So let's set up our equation. So our part is 9. Percentage is X. Whole is 72. Divide both by 72. So 9 divided by 72 is 0.125. Now here's the problem. That's not our answer because it's asking for a percent. So our percentage would be 12.5%. All right, number 2, at a playoff basketball game, there were 370 fans for cheering for school A and then 550 for school B. So express the number of fans cheering for school A as a percent of school B. So the of school B would be our whole. We don't know our percentage. So by default, school B would be our part. So our part is school A, which is 370. We don't know the percentage. The whole would be school B, or 550. So part equals percent times whole. So 370 is X times 550. Divide both sides by 550. So 370 divided by 555 is 0.666 repeating. Now it's asking for the percentage, so move it over twice. So 66.6 repeating. All right, express the number of school B as a percent of school A. So the of is the whole by default. The other one's the B, or the part. So let's set up our cheat sheet. Part would be school B, which is 555. Your percentage is X. And school A now becomes your whole. Part equals percent times whole. Your part this time is 555. Your whole is 370. To solve for X, we're going to divide both sides by 370. So 555 divided by 370 gives you 1.5, but that's not your answer because you have to move it over twice. So 150%. Now, does that make sense that school B is larger than 100% of school A? That would make sense because the school B is larger than school A. All right, number 3, a plant in Michaela's garden was 40 inches tall one day and was 4 feet tall 1 week later. By what percent, so finding the percent, did the plant's height increase? Okay, so we're doing part, percent, and whole. We don't know the percentage, so that's our X. It was 40 inches and now 4 feet. Remember, we can't have different units. So we're going to multiply 4 times 12, which would give me 48 inches. So now we're both in inches. Whole is your original, which would be 40. Your new would be 48. That's your part. All right, so part equals percent times whole. So our part is 48. We're trying to find the percentage, and our whole is 40. So divide both sides by 40, and you get 1.2. Now, the percentage for that is 120%, but that's not the percentage of increase. Remember, you have to subtract 100. So it actually went up 20%. All right, number 4. Lauren must obtain a minimum number of signatures on a petition before it can be submitted. She was able to obtain 672, which is 40% more than she needs. Now, 40% more means we need to add 40 to 100, which gives us a percentage of 140. She was able to obtain this 672 signatures, and we need to know how many does she need. So let's do part, percent, and whole. So our percentage is 140%, which is 1.4. So whole is always your original, part is always your new. So I'm going to say that real quick. Let me just double check my. All right. So the original amount she has is 672. And we need to know how many she had to have. Like, what's the new amount of signatures? So part equals percent times whole. So our part is X, percentage is 140, and the whole, the original amount was 672. So 1.4 times 672. I did that backwards. I knew I was going to do that. Let's try that again. The whole is the, like, how many she should have. 672 is what she currently has. So 672 is what she currently has. 1.40 is the percentage of X. Divide both sides by 1.40. Let's try that again. Divided by 1.4 is 480. So she should have had 480. She got 472, which is 40% more than that. All right, so you can try the problem set on your own, and we will go over it in class tomorrow.